Today I'm going to be talking about everything Triton that comes from the reprint in Monsters of the Multiverse. Starting out with the flavor text. Originally from the elemental plane of water, many Tritons entered the material plane centuries ago in response to the growing threat of evil elementals. Those Tritons spread across the world's oceans, protecting the surface from terrors in the deep. Over time, Triton have extended their stewardship over the seafloor to the ocean's surface. Triton have webbed hands and feet, small fins on their calves, and coloration that favors blues and greens. So from that flavor text, what I think of right away is Oath of the Watcher's Paladin. Specifically an Oath of the Watchers who's keeping the world safe from evil elementals from the elemental plane of water. Seems to fit quite well. Moving into our actual features, we are a humanoid, we are a size medium, we have a movement speed of 30 feet and a swimming speed to match. We are amphibious, we can breathe air and water. We also have control air and water, which allows us to cast Fog Cloud. At level 3 it allows us to cast Gust of Wind, and at level 5 it allows us to cast Water Walk. We get to choose our spellcasting modifier when we select the race. We also have dark vision out to 60 feet. We have Emissary of the Sea, which allows us to communicate to sea creatures, whether they be beast or elemental or monstrosity, so long as they have a swimming speed. It can understand us, but we can't necessarily understand it. Finally, we have Guardian of the Depths, which gives us resistance to cold damage. So resistance to cold damage is just a solid defensive option. Cold comes up a fair amount, and depending on the campaign may come up a lot. So something like Rime with the Frost Maiden, a Triton can be very good for one, protecting you against cold damage, but if you have resistance to cold damage, you also have resistance to cold temperature. So something like Rime with the Frost Maiden, somewhere where you're in the tundra, this can actually really shine. As for communicating with creatures who have a swimming speed, that's actually pretty interesting, though I don't see it coming up too often. There's some campaigns I do. Call of the Netherdeep stands out as one where that might shine. I think for most campaigns, this is more of a banner feature, but I do think it has potential. As for our spells, Fog Cloud is the one that stands out as the best to me. I am actually a bigger fan of Fog Cloud than most people are. I think Fog Cloud is a workhorse of a spell. It is a spell that allows us to disengage combats, to equalize combats. If the enemies all have advantage and we all have disadvantage, well, we can neutralize all of that and make it an even playing field again. But there's a lot of combats you can just not have with Fog Cloud, which is the strongest kind of spell. It wins the combat by making the combat not even happen. So using Fog Cloud before the initiative is rolled to create a situation where everyone's searching for everyone, you guys can just leave that situation. Very powerful. It also has synergy with the fighters who have blind fighting style. So this actually goes really well with a ranger or a fighter who's using blind fighting style, especially a fighter, because rangers get Fog Cloud already, so they could already do this. But a fighter with the blind fighting style can actually take advantage of Fog Cloud in a unique way, so that might be a niche for the Triton, though keep in mind you can't cast it often. So maybe an Eldritch Knight build to be able to cast it a little bit more often. As for Gust of Wind isn't going to come up often, but it's always nice to have your spell on your spell slot just because there are moments when you need to disperse gases. That happens. In my campaign, I have a player who's playing a Tempest Domain Cleric, so they have this automatically prepared on their spell list, and though they never would have prepared it anyways, there have been several situations, sandstorms, poisonous gases, so on and so forth, where because it was in their back pocket, they were able to pull it out and it came in super clutch. Water Walk is in a similar fashion. You probably wouldn't want to prepare it, it's not going to come up that often, but when it does come up, it can actually be pretty useful given certain situations. Boat-on-boat combat, being able to jump off the ship to scurry over to a ship that's trying to turn and board them, for example. And that's just one in many applications. But overall, looking at the spell list as a whole, most of the spells aren't going to be spells that we particularly care about casting multiple times a day. Gust of Wind and Water Walk, it's going to be so rare that we want to cast them once a day, let alone multiple times a day. So I don't see this as a huge incentive for a spellcaster. Now usually spellcasters get to use these spells multiple times a day and that can really matter, but in this situation I'm seeing it matter less. The one exception to this might be Fog Cloud, being able to cast Fog Cloud multiple times a day. Maybe you can find a use for it. Most full casters already get it. The ones that don't have a huge application for it. So as far as classes go, I'm actually seeing marshals kind of stand out a bit more than casters here, even though they do have a spell list. I think marshals are just going to appreciate being able to walk on water or to cast Fog Cloud, especially with the blind fighting style. And considering that the flavor matches so well with Oath of the Watchers, I really feel like Paladin is also shining here, especially with blind fighting style once again, because we have the ranger who can kind of do that naturally, the fighter who can't multiple cast the spells Then there's the Paladin, where it has the niche of they don't actually have that spell, and now they can cast it multiple times. There is a particular niche there. Overall, I feel like the Triton is probably lower on the power level. It's not bad by any means, it definitely is medium, but it's on the lower end of potential power of some of these races are. I'm looking at you, Shatterkai. However, it does have some really unique niches that I think would be really cool to explore. It also has particular campaigns that it would shine in. Cold campaigns or water campaigns, namely. But that's just my take on the Triton. What about yours? Let me know in the comments down below. I would like to hear your character builds or just cool things about them. And other than that, I just hope you have yourselves a lovely day, and I'll see you on the next one. Later.